Perfect.
And we'll put it on Facebook.
I was going to say, I have my phone out just to share it. I told the people of Ward 9 I was going to share it on the page. Manchester, England.
All right, here we go. All right.
Perfect.
For everyone on our Facebook page, welcome. My name is Andrew Sylvia. I'm the assistant editor of Manchester Inklink. I'm here with Bobby Kliskey, candidate for Alderman in Ward 9. Thank you for joining us, Bobby.
Thank you. I'm not being rude. I'm sharing it to the Ward 9 group chat or the Facebook page. So
the more the better.
Yes, I'm trying to get as many people to watch it as possible.
So fantastic. Just a reminder, folks, we have one more event after Bobby tonight. We have Ward 12 Aldermanic candidate Aaron Kelly on Monday night at 7. And you can watch all of our previous Q&As and debates on the Manchester Inklink Facebook page, as well as the story going up on Manchester Inklink tonight. We'll have links to everything. So, all right, ready to go. In case you have not seen any of our events before, this election season, we have 5 categories with questions from our readers in housing and homelessness, education, public safety, business and infrastructure, and miscellaneous. And we'll be asking Bobby these questions one by one. So without further ado, let's start here. Going in the housing and homelessness category. First up is Laura Anthony from Ward 1. She asks, what is the best course forward regarding the homelessness issue, and what powers can the position you're running for use to initiate and support that course?
Absolutely. So thank you for that question. The main thing I've been focusing on with homelessness is that we need to show compassion to the homeless, and we need to make sure that we treat them in a humane way, as well as making sure that Manchester is a safe place to live. The one thing that I've noticed about the current homeless situation is that it's not just the Manchester homeless people. It's residents of Nashua who come to Manchester. It's the homeless from Rochester who come to Manchester. People from Massachusetts who are homeless come to live in Manchester and be homeless because of the great services that we provide. And they have word of mouth that Manchester is a great place to be homeless because we don't really enforce any of our rules. It's kind of, they have free reign. They can do whatever they want. Specifically in Ward 9, most of my Ward 9 neighbors notice our biking path. Every week it seems like a tent comes up or people are just living out there and the litter keeps building up. And so what I would focus on is making sure that we take care of the homeless of Manchester rather than taking in the homeless from all the surrounding areas. And as a member of the board of mayor and aldermen, we can work together as a collective unit to work for the city solutions itself, as well as work directly with the state to see what actions they could also provide that could also help us here. So two-faceted city focus on homelessness, as well as directly working with the state as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Heading to the public safety category here. This one's from Rich Everett from Ward 4. This is actually a kind of tangentially related to homelessness. He says, do you feel that it's a public safety issue that everyone get vaccinated, wear a mask, but not a public safety issue that there are panhandlers in heavy traffic areas, sometimes in the roadway?
Yeah, so could you repeat the first part of that question?
Sure. Do you feel that it's a public safety issue that everyone get vaccinated and wear a mask, but not a public safety issue that there were panhandlers in heavy traffic areas, sometimes in the roadway?
Oh, absolutely. So I believe that if you want to get vaccinated, and once you're vaccinated, essentially CDC guidance says you don't typically need to wear a mask. It's up to store discretion or personal preference. I know people who are vaccinated who wear a mask just because it makes them feel safe, and there's nothing wrong against that. But from a scientific standpoint, the vaccine is one of the greatest inventions ever to come from modern science. And once you're vaccinated, you don't have a gigantic risk if you're under the age of 50 to die of COVID or have a major reaction to it. That's the power of the vaccine. The vaccine is to minimize the possible major effects of it. And I think it's a great, wonderful science creation. So if you want to get vaccinated, It's pretty simple, pretty easy. You can go to vaccines.gov. But I do think there is a public safety issue about the panhandlers on the side of the road. I don't know if you saw, but 2 weeks ago, people were panhandling on Elm Street, and they would knock on people's windows as they were at red lights, getting really aggressive. So that's a public safety issue, not only for the drivers who are being approached, not knowing who's coming up to their car, but could you imagine on an off ramp if a panhandler is walking across the road, someone's not looking, and then you get hit? So that, I would say both are pretty serious.
Okay, thank you so much. Headed to the education category, we have Kathleen Turgeon from Ward 1. She asks, what's the best thing you've seen inside our public schools, and what's the worst thing you've seen inside our public schools?
The best thing I've seen from public schools is my own personal education. To be honest, I was just telling Andy this earlier. There are 2 people from my graduating high school class running for municipal office, me, candidate for alderman in Ward 9, and Peter Argyropoulos running for school board at large. We're very different on the political spectrum, but if the public schools were able to produce 2 really well-respected individuals, I believe, I respect Peter a ton. I think that's one of the best things, because it made the public school raised us, and then it also wanted us to give back in a capacity that we're able to. And so I didn't go to Manchester Public Schools kindergarten to 8th grade, but my high school public experience was something I really enjoyed. And I'm sure Peter has said it many times as well. So I would say that's one of the best. The worst inside of a public school right now is just the current test scores. They're absolutely abysmal. Most students aren't even remotely near competent when it comes to their grade level in reading and in writing. And the math scores are dropping as well. Do I think teachers are doing a great job trying to teach the students? Yes. Global pandemic and virtual learning has definitely played an impact onto the success of students. But I think it also is important that we fund the schools correctly. This right now, the Manchester School District gets 53% of the total municipal budget, and it seems like the quality keeps going down. So if elected, on the first day, I would be asking for receipts for every single dollar spent from that school board before I would approve any single budget, just to make sure that we're spending it in the most effective way to make sure we take care of our students.
Okay, thank you so much. Heading to the business and infrastructure category, Jay from Ward 3 asks, do you support bringing a train station downtown? The proposed one would be near Ward 9. So what are your thoughts on that?
So from a concept, I like the commuter rail as a concept. I like being able to promote downtown. I like the ability for just the whole wide array of options that it has. However, speaking to residents of Ward 9 specifically in the area that it gets impacted or passes through, it is the biggest no I've ever witnessed. It's like whether you're on the left of the political aisle or the right on the political aisle, everyone who lives down there are very against it. Reason number 1, terrible for home prices. Every house in Manchester is skyrocketing in value. I'm sure everyone knows it. Their value of their houses have increased. If we put a commuter rail behind someone's house, that neighborhood would be the only one with a decreasing value. Second, it's going to promote people to leave Manchester and go to other places. From what I've seen from a proposal from the rail trail is that it's going to be from Manchester to Boston, which could hinder the ability, because no one's going to come from Boston to Manchester to work. People are going to be going from Manchester to Boston for the great advantages that New Hampshire has. No state income tax, no sales tax. But if you can go hop on a train and earn higher wages that are increased through Massachusetts, why wouldn't you? So as a concept, I like it. I think we need to do more work on it. But I'm a voice of the people of Ward 9, and the people I've talked to are very against it. So I would not vote for it.
Okay, thank you so much. Heading to the miscellaneous category, Frenchie from Ward 11 asks, he says, I miss professional hockey in Manchester. How can we get it back?
Yes, so I do miss professional hockey as well. Frenchie, I like your name. So I remember as a kid very fondly going to Manchester Monarchs games. I remember one of my favorites was when me and my twin went for a bobblehead night, and there was only one bobblehead left. And I don't know how my mom did it to get us both to be happy with not both getting a bobblehead, but she made it work. And those are some great memories that we were able to have as kids. And unfortunately, we're not really able to have it now. I just say the best way to recruit a professional hockey team, I I guess we could cold call. I know there's the Providence Bruins down in Rhode Island, and they're able to do it. I think just having a vibrant downtown, showing it as a viable city, and showing an interest for hockey. Um, I mean, in high school, I did a whole report on the attendance of the SNU Arena when it was called the Verizon Arena, and it wasn't really maximized. The value of ticket sales were decreasing year after year. So I guess it makes sense why they left, but I'd be for any team. If the Boston Celtics wanted to be the Manchester Celtics and we could take an NBA team, that'd be tier one. I'll take the Boston Bruins as well. The Patriots get tired of playing in Foxborough, I'll be the first to vote for a gigantic stadium. Put it right in the middle of the city.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna bulldoze downtown and have an NFL stadium. Okay.
Hey, maybe we get a Super Bowl. Talk about some increased revenue.
Okay, fair enough. All right, going back to housing and homelessness. RK from Ward 8 asks, how can we create a panhandling law that can be legally enforced?
I think we have signs already for panhandling on South Willow that say, do not give money to panhandlers. Here is a list of great organizations to give to. And they stand right in front of them. I think the only way we can do it is, one, I'd have to look into the legality of it. I don't know if legally we can enforce an ordinance to prevent people from standing asking for money. And then two, if we were able to do it, we'd have to increase the foot patrol of policemen to, I guess, enforce that law. But if you think about it, I don't think that if we take police officers from what they're currently doing, because crime has increased in Manchester, and designated them to enforce panhandling laws, if that's the best use. So just working to figure out creative ways to deter it. I just think the public knowledge of giving money to panhandlers is a poor idea, and it just encourages them to come back. Will hopefully just rattle off so people stop giving money, so then they just leave when they realize it's not profitable.
Okay, thank you so much. Heading to public safety again, we have, let's see what we got here. Anna from Ward 7 says, I don't feel safe at night in some parts of the city, and I don't think I'm alone. How can we address this?
No, you're not alone. I have a lot of friends who we used to go to the bars on Elm Street, and well, pre-pandemic, that's kind of put our damper on things. But now when I try to get all my friends back together, they don't want to go to downtown Manchester. We all live in Manchester, but we're like, can we go to Backyard Brewery, which is over by Ward 8, Ward 6? Can we go to 603, which is in Derry? Can we go to Pipe Dream, which is border of Manchester, Londonderry? No one's mentioning Elm Street because, one, they're afraid their cars are going to get broken into. Two, they're afraid of the homeless who are just sitting outside as just a danger. And then three, every day I see a crime or a assault that happens in downtown Manchester. So one thing that I think that we could really do to enforce that is to increase foot patrol in Manchester, especially downtown, especially late at night. And I think they're already working on that. So I like that idea a lot. And just being strict on enforcing the law, making sure it's a safe place, as well as Representative Ross Berry, who represents my district in the State House. He's working on legislation for personal recognizance bail, because I've read too many stories about people assaulting people, robbing banks, hitting people with their cars, and then they're out on bail same day. That needs to be eliminated. We need to enforce our laws and make sure that we deter it as strongly as possible.
Okay. I actually wrote a story on Representative Berry's proposal. I'll share that in the chat. In the meantime, going back to the education category, Bill from Ward 12 asks, what's your thoughts on the Amplify program?
I need to read more about the Amplify program specifically. I'm just under the mindset for any program when it comes to education is if it benefits the success of students, I'm for it. But if it increases the taxes on residents and taxpayers in Manchester, I'm against it. We have a tax cap. I would be an alderman that would not infringe on the tax cap and protect the tax cap. Our current alderman flips her decision on voting against the tax cap multiple times. So if elected, I'd be a strong vote to uphold the tax cap, as well as working directly with the Board of School Committee to make sure that the success of students comes first.
Okay, thank you so much. Heading to business and infrastructure, excuse me. This is another one from Bill from Ward 12. Victoria Sullivan actually had this question the other day. Do you believe the word Boston in Manchester Boston Regional Airport helps promote the airport as an alternative for travelers coming to Boston? Or does it detract from the positives of Manchester, New Hampshire as a whole as a destination of its own?
I think it increases. If you think about it, if people are flying to Boston, more than likely they have plans in Boston. It's not just going to be a layover in Boston, never step outside the airport, and then go somewhere else. So if we can increase by just keeping the name there, and maybe they either find the fare cheaper or they find a fare that's more aligned with their schedule, they don't have to delay dates. They'll come to Manchester. They may stay for a couple hours in Manchester. And then when they go to Boston and go home, they'll be like, wow, Manchester was great for the 4 hours I was there. Maybe next time I'll go visit New Hampshire. Or they'll tell their friends who may live somewhere else and say, fly into Manchester, Boston rather than Logan, because you get to experience everything that Manchester has to offer and then do what you needed to do in Boston. So I think it's great.
Okay. Heading to the miscellaneous category, RK from Ward 8 asks, do you feel that city politics in Manchester are too partisan?
I don't think they're too partisan. I mean, obviously, we have a two-party political system in the country and in the state. Most people I talk to pretty much know everyone's political affiliation. But at the same time, if I see, for example, a door that I'm knocking that day and it has a Joyce Craig sign in it, I'm not going to just ignore them and not talk to them. I knock every single door because I don't represent in a partisan fashion. I represent the people of Ward 9 specifically. That is my party, per se. I vote in what's the best interest for them. We mentioned it earlier about the rail. I liked the concept of it, and I thought it would have been a good idea until I spoke to the people of Ward 9 of both parties, who rejected it wholeheartedly. And as an alderman, you're just the voice of your people, of the people of Ward 9. And so I think that the election itself is partisan. However, I don't treat it partisanly. And I believe that people need to make the best choice, regardless of political party, that's going to directly impact them here. It's completely different than voting for a president. It's completely different than voting for a state house position, because the people that you elect to City Hall directly impact your day-to-day life. They impact your taxes directly on your properties. They impact how much it costs to register your car. They everything. They pretty much affect how you view the place that you live directly rather than the state as a whole. So I recommend researching every candidate, regardless of political affiliation, and vote for the best candidate you think is best for you. Ward 8, I would say Ed Sapienza, hands down. So shout out Ed.
Okay. We also had a story today on who the city Democrats and Republicans endorsed in the election. I'll put that in the chat. But in the meantime, back to the housing and homelessness category. That's our first question from Ward 9. Alderman Shaw answered this one the other day. This is from Carl. Carl asks, or he says, parking is hard to come by for a lot of apartments. How can we address that?
Hey, Carl. I live in apartments. I live on Redstone, right off of Sentinel Court, right off of Gold Street. And we actually got a notice. So I have two buildings in our parking lot, it's a shared parking lot. And we had an email go out to all residents about a month ago saying that people would come home late at night and there would be no parking. And there's like 150-ish parking spots. And I thought it was crazy. I was like, I've never really issued this. I don't know how true, or if people are just complaining that they're not getting the best spot. And then last week I came home at 11:30, not a single spot. I had to park in building 50's parking lot and walk back up. And so what I would recommend is working directly with your landlord or your leasing agent. Like I live in Red Oak, so it's a gigantic organization, and they are now enforcing the stickers. You get a parking sticker when you move in, but people would have 3 vehicles, for example, taking up 3 spots. I've seen motorcycles take up spots, and then they just put a bag over it for the winter, make sure it's preserved, but it's still a spot no one can use. So I say it's nothing that we really could do from a Board of Alderman status, but what I'd recommend is to talk to your landlord and have that open dialogue.
Okay, thank you so
Don't
much.
park in 80 Sentinel Court though, because I'm already having trouble finding spots. So
Okay, fair enough. All right, going to the public safety category. Uh, let's go to Frenchie again from Ward 11. What can be done about noise from motorcycles and loud cars? It seems that police just ignore them.
yeah, so as right off of South Beach and Gold Street, you can imagine there's a lot of loud motorcycles, and you have the airplanes above us as well, so it can get pretty noisy. Besides just a noise ordinance, I don't think there's anything we can really do. What I would just suggest is to be extremely courteous of your neighbors. At 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. or even 8 p.m., I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just what you expect to have when you live in a city. But I do not tolerate at 1 to 2 a.m. when there's like 6 race sports cars sprinting down with revved up engines in residential areas. It's uncourteous for the people that live there, and the people who are doing it, I can guarantee just know they're just doing it to annoy people. And so what I recommend is to increase patrol with police vehicles in residential areas where it's recurring, and then enforce the law and deter it from ever happening again. Because if you think about it, you do it 10 times out of 10 times and no one ever talks to you, you're going to keep doing it. But if you do it once, get caught, get talked to by the police, now you know the police are there, you're not going to go back to that neighborhood. So wherever it's majorly happening, I would say police presence for sure.
Okay, going to the education category. Winter Travax from Ward 3, one of our correspondents, had a question. She asks, at any point are we going to stop giving money to charter schools and make our public schools as good as they can be?
I believe wholeheartedly that we should invest in our public schools. I believe that public schools are a great option for students and parents to send their kids when done properly. As you can see now with the current test scores, it's not the best that they've ever been. It's decreased since I graduated in 2014 for sure. It's decreased since my younger brother graduated back in 2018. And then it's decreased even more since my sister graduated in 2019. So every year it's a gradual decline, and funding charter schools, albeit, is an alternative for students to go to, and parents get the option to, I say parents have the option wholeheartedly to send their kids wherever they want to go to school. So for my personal example, I went to kindergarten through 8th grade at St. Thomas Aquinas in Derry. Very fortunate to have had that education. My mom viewed it as the best education for us. She sacrificed to pay our tuition so that we could have a better education. So then when we went to high school, she made the prudential choice that Memorial was a good school. So she sent us there. However, if she viewed Manchester as a bad school or just did not want us to go there, I believe it's also the district's responsibility to provide options. Either Trinity, which is a private school, charter schools, or public schools. And now you see a huge swath of students going to homeschooling now, because after the pandemic, they realized that it's easier now with technology to teach your kids at home. And I'm not going to be someone to say that to parents what to do with their kids' education. That's a decision solely for the parents.
Okay, thank you so much. Heading back to the business and infrastructure category, Ken Stremski from Ward 1 asks, how do you improve the step saver and fixed route bus service?
Hey, thanks for the question. So fixing the bus is tough. When I went to school in Rhode Island, my mom would drop me off first day of school and then pick me up on the last day of school. And she said, any other time I wanted to come home, I had to take a bus. So I'm very familiar with the bus stations from Providence to Boston, Boston to Manchester. What I think is now happening with the buses is that it's just not funded properly, and people are abusing the bus systems. I think when you get off the bus station, it's not an appealing thing and people don't want to ride them as much, as well as just a lack of maintenance. So if elected, I would, again, ask for receipts. I'll make it known, if you elect me as alderman on day 1, I'm going to ask for receipts from every single department, and we are going to comb through them together as a whole board and figure out where all of this spending is going. So that way we can make sure we know. So no one can say we don't know what we're spending money on. I'll make sure we have it on record. And then I'll see if there's a program that we're wasting money on that we can throw towards the transportation side of things, because I think transportation is really important, especially for people who can't afford to have vehicles. So it's a vital aspect of the city, and I think it should be funded properly.
All right. Heading to the miscellaneous category, we have a question from Anna from Ward 7. She asks, if there's one city out there like Manchester, what is it? What is it? And why is it so much like Manchester?
Yeah, I would say Providence, Rhode Island. I went to school down there. It has a very vibrant downtown like Manchester had pre-pandemic around 2018, 2019. And the one thing that I think is very similar from Providence to Manchester is that it's located in a small state where there's not many cities surrounding it. And it's just the hub of the city. So for example, I view Manchester as the hub from Bedford all the way from Bedford, Auburn, Londonderry, Derry, Concord. I think everyone kind of comes to Manchester, and that's how I view it. And then the same with Rhode Island. Everyone makes their trips to Providence. So I think that Providence and Manchester are very alike, very small cities and small states with people that love their cities. So that's one of the reasons I'm running. I love Manchester and I want to make it better. So if I didn't love it, I wouldn't be here. So.
Okay. We're going to take a little twist here and go to the public safety category. We just got a comment in the Facebook live chat from Justin Buford. The first time we've done this, so doing a little bit of a twist here. Justin asks, he says, graffiti is out of control. I've never seen the graffiti squad cleaning the highway wall or any spot in Manchester. I realize that the highway wall may be a state problem, but what can be done? I've seen those around the city too, the decap and B-dub. I guess I always joke that he really likes Buffalo Wild Wings, but maybe it's another B-dub. Bobby, yeah. What are your thoughts on the graffiti?
I was confused too at first, because when I drove by that exact one, I read B-dub and then I thought it said decaf. And I was like, is this Buffalo Wild Wings promoting coffee? I was like, I mean, wings at noon seems a little ridiculous, but 9 a.m. we can get a cold brew with some wings. Yeah. Maybe the promotional aspect that they haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, they actually arrested decap too at some point, and they still keep on popping up. There must be some kind of some other guy that's decap now.
I just think the whole thing, again, with pretty much most public safety aspects, is deterrence. As you can tell, people aren't getting punished for graffiti. And so one, we need to increase enforcement of the laws to not deface property. And then two, make a statement when you catch someone doing it to deter it from happening again. Like I mentioned about like the motorcycles and the loud vehicles. If you know you're not going to get caught, you're going to keep going. So if I were to vandalize 3 buildings with graffiti, nothing ever happened, what's stopping me from doing the 4th? Why? Whereas if I do 1, get caught, it might deter me from even thinking about doing another. So, and Justin, I know exactly where you live, and I know that it's popping up over there. So when elected, I'll work with the whole board of mayor and aldermen, determine exactly the best course of action in regards to patrolling areas that might be highly susceptible to graffiti, and then work on ways to discourage it from ever happening again.
Okay, thank you so much. Going to the housing and homelessness category, Romeo from Ward 4 says, rent prices are out of control. How will you fix this?
Yeah, so rent prices are out of control solely because of the lack of available units. I live in an apartment building. People next door to me were moving out, and the landlord listed online the rent price for the exact same unit I'm in, but one door over, and it's 45% more than what I'm paying right now. So kind of scares me for next May when my lease is up to renew, what they're going to do to me. But what I think we need to do is encourage more building of available property units. I don't think it needs to be affordable housing specifically, just more availability of property. So whether that be encouraging builders to build directly in Manchester, whether that to be working with the zoning people and figure out exactly where we could zone more residential property, all different aspects that we should be able to approach. But again, if you think about it, high rents follow quality cities. New York City, very expensive, city that a lot of people want to live in. Boston, very expensive city. A lot of people want to live in. Manchester, you have to pay to live here. I need to make sure that it's a great city that we live in and that we want to, and that's what I'm going to work on when I'm with the board. And two, need to make sure the price reflects it. I don't want people to be forced out of their houses because they cannot afford to live here anymore. And two, I want to make sure that it attracts good people to come here. So there's going to be a price that you have to pay to live here. I just need to make sure it's worth it.
Okay. Heading to the public safety category again. Kay from Ward 12 asks, should police officers be allowed to turn off their body cameras?
No. I believe the whole purpose of the body camera is to know exactly what's going on. And to be honest, there's weird state laws. I know you, Andy, I'm pretty sure you wrote an article about this. If not, I just saw it on another offshoot of Inklink trying to copy you guys, about when Alderman at Large Joe Kelly Lavasser had the altercation downtown, wherever that was. But when they took the officer's word, when they were doing what happened, they recorded it on a body cam solely for the purpose that he could not file a right to know request, which I think is ridiculous. I think that we as a public need to see exactly what's going on. And that's the whole purpose of the body cams. I think that it should be accessible to the public when public need comes up. And I can't personally think of a situation where it would be acceptable to turn it off. Because when you think about it, should I turn it off? Those are like the exact moments you want to catch. Like right? If you think about it, like if I was just walking down the street and I had the body camera on and nothing's happening, and then something happened and then I turned the camera off, I don't care about me walking down the road the whole time. I want to know exactly what happened in that instance. So,
okay,
long
you are
answer.
correct. And
Sure.
you are correct. I didn't write it, but we do have a story on that incident. I'll put that in the chat. Right. Oh, now
The whole chat is just going to be articles from Manchester Inklink. I do my reading.
that and Justin's question.
Yes.
So if anybody else has questions out there, let us know. We're evolving. This is the first time we've done this. So yeah, hopefully I like it. So next time we have a Q&A here on Zoom, anyone else has a question, feel free to pop it in there.
Awesome.
In the meantime, we're going to head to the education category. Got another one from Frenchie. A few of the other candidates have gotten this question. Frenchie asks, when will we see dual language immersion schools in Manchester? I've heard about this, but I haven't heard when they're coming. Also, one of the schools have French as a second language. In case you're not aware of this, we've had a few stories on that on Manchester Inklink. Currently, the school that's proposed to have the dual language immersion school is Webster Elementary, but it's still up in the air. There's been a few discussion meetings about the facilities plan. So what are your thoughts on dual immersion schools, Bobby?
I think Manchester's a very diverse city, and people need to be able to be taught in languages that they speak at home. I took Spanish for 9-10 years. Do I speak a ton of it now? Do I retain a lot of it? No. Could I survive in Spain if you dropped me off and I needed to find my way to an airport? Probably. So I think it's important that we focus on students who speak different languages to make sure that they are receiving an education that they're able to understand. But at the same time, I think we need to stress the importance of learning to write and read in English as well. I think one of the most important things you can do is read, because if you're able to read a question, then you're able to use context clues and then be able to understand and then be able to answer. That comes from just reading comprehension, but it also translates to math questions, science questions, history questions. If you can't understand what you're reading, there's no way you're going to be able to answer the questions. So focusing really heavily on English, but as well as catering to students who speak other languages like French. I took a year of French in college, didn't realize it was a prereq for baking students to do an internship in France. So at the end of the year, the professor asked us, what's one phrase you're going to use in France that you've learned from this class? I was the only business major who forgot that I was never going to Paris. And so I said, je ne parle pas français, which means I do not speak French. So that it sticks with me forever. If I ever end up in Paris, that's the one line I'm going to be spewing until I meet an English speaker. So,
there you go.
Or a conversational Spanish speaker in Paris, then I might be able to survive that too.
Okay. Heading to the business and infrastructure category. Kay from Ward Twin asks, Do you think city government is doing enough to help the West Side?
I think that the West Side has good representation. Ward 12, for example, Keith Hirschman, I know isn't on the ballot this year. Great representative. I think the problem on the West Side is that there's so much happening in Manchester that we want to focus on. We want to focus on the downtown. We want to focus on the airport. We want to focus on the South End. But I think a lot of people forget the West Side's a great place to live as well. I know it has a bad reputation from years past, but I play pickup hockey on the West Side Arena twice, 3 times a week, and I love it. I don't feel endangered over there, but at the same time, I think there's a lot that we could do to build it up. And definitely seeing some empty shops down there, or just shops that are really good that no one gets recognition for because no one thinks to go to the West Side. So promoting it, I think, will definitely help, as well as working directly with the representatives from the West Side on how we can directly improve their neighborhoods. I would say I'm the best person to ask about how we should help Ward 9, because if elected, I'll go around and ask people who are my neighbors what's the best for us. But if you ask me to solve West Side questions, I don't live on the West Side, I would default to ask your alderman and your board of school committee member and your state representatives, and they're the ones who know your area the best. I'd be able to just point you in the right direction.
All right, thank you so much.
Of course.
Heading to the miscellaneous category, this might be the toughest one of the night. I know Victoria Sullivan said this is the toughest question for her. Jay from Ward 3 asks, what's your favorite restaurant in Manchester?
Oh,
you're going to insult somebody here.
Oh, I can't. No. There's so many good restaurants in Manchester, to be honest. I love the Crown right across from the Palace Theater. They make the best espresso martini in Manchester. Anyone who knows me, that's my drink. When I go out to dinner with my girlfriend, she orders a beer, I order the martini. The waiter comes out, gives us the wrong drinks, and then we do that little slide. Because the waiter's like, oh, the guy, obviously he ordered the beer. And oh, the lady, she definitely ordered the really fancy girly martini. And then we just look at each other and we do the little woo. So I like the Crown a lot as for a restaurant. The Pint is a really good bar downtown Manchester, make a really good margarita. And then breakfast spot, it's like on the border of Ward 9, Ward 8. I'll give it to Ward 9 Airport Diner.
That's in Ward. Is that in Ward 8 or Ward? I thought it was in Ward 9.
It's really close. It's
okay.
Like right next to the UPS, right on the cutoff. So
okay.
But I know for a fact that every weekend, me and my roommate, we order it online. When we're both in bed, we text each other, what are we getting for Airport Diner? And then I'm usually the one who has to drive down and pick it up. So, but their chocolate chip pancakes, really good. So.
And a shameless plug, if anyone's a Manchester VIP, you get discounts to the Airport Diner along with several other restaurants in town. So if you haven't checked it out yet, vip.manchesterlink.com. You help us out and you help yourself out when you go to local businesses.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing that lately I've noticed is with Christmas coming along and everyone knows about all of the supply chain issues across the country. I definitely recommend to shop local this year. I'm doing majority of my shopping for Christmas in Manchester directly. We have a great mall. I just came back from the mall actually to buy some more dress pants that I think a lot of people don't really think about. Dick's Sporting Goods. I get all my golf stuff from there. And then all of downtown, George's Apparel that's where I got my prom junior, like my suit for prom junior year. You have all these hotels that you can give gift cards to. I think just supporting local businesses now, especially with everything we've gone through in the last year and a half, it's going to pay off a ton. And don't think about it as paying a big corporation. You're helping a family directly here. And that encourages them to stay. So I don't want any business to leave.
Okay. And more name dropping, I guess, more topic dropping. I met with Senator Shaheen today. She was at UPS to discuss supply chain disruptions. I put the story up in the chat. So take a look at that. But in the meantime, we got another question for you in the housing and homelessness category. This is another one from Frenchie. Good old Frenchie.
Frenchie's just killing it today.
Yeah. Everyone loves his nickname. One day we're going to meet Frenchie. Frenchie asks, why can't the homeless people who don't live in Manchester go back where they came from, or why can't we just send them there?
So ethically, I don't think it's ethically responsible of us to just get a big bus and check everyone's ID and like, oh, you're from Nashua? See ya. You're not no longer our problem. The reason they come to Manchester is our services are way better than Nashville services. Our services is way better than Rochester, Portsmouth, everywhere. We're by far, as a city, we take care of the homeless better than anyone else. The problem is there are so many homeless that aren't from Manchester that people of Manchester who are facing homelessness aren't able to access all of the great policies and services that we offer. So what I would recommend is to work directly with the Board of Aldermen in Nashua, work with the mayors and other towns and cities in our surrounding areas to ask questions for us. What are we doing so well that is the reason everyone's coming here? And then maybe they'll be able to implement policies that will be able to help their homeless populations, which will deter them from coming here. Again, I think the main thing is we just need to focus directly on helping Manchester homeless people and not everyone else's.
Okay. Heading to the public safety category. Bill from Ward 12 asks, how does our fire department compare to other fire departments in New Hampshire and New England?
So in regards to New England, I've lived in Rhode Island for college and then back in Manchester every other year since. I think it's one of the best. 2 years ago, I had our fire alarm went off and me and my roommate woke up at 3 a.m. Disclaimer, he's had 2 house fires. And when we moved in, he told me that. And I was like, oh, it's about time. I woke up, fire alarm was going off. And I was like, about time the building burnt down. I'm living with a guy who's attracted to him. And we walk outside and kid you not, once the door closes, it's been about a minute, fire trucks are already here. So they're really fast, really responsive. I think they're all really great individuals who they sacrifice their lives. If you think about it, they're willing to run into a building in flames to help save us. So they have my respect 100%. And I think they do a fantastic job.
Okay. Heading to the education category. RK from Ward 8 asks, do you support a super high school?
I don't, because I have so much pride from Manchester Memorial. I'm a graduate. I'm an alum 2014. My stepdad is an alum, class of 1980. So I think the best part about Manchester schools is that we had a few of them. Some of my best friends went to Manchester Central. Some of my fondest memories in high school were playing sports against my friends who weren't at my school, but we were friends because we lived in the same city. And I think that a super high school would just take out the impact that we have in our direct local communities. And if you think about it, people choose to move to parts of Manchester based off of the schools. Not saying any school's better than the other. I'm biased, Memorial's the best. So if I were, say, living in Salem and I wanted to move to Manchester and you're reviewing the school scores, it'll encourage people to move to the feeder wards that go into Memorial. What that means for us as a city and a board of aldermen and the board of school committee is to help develop all of the schools together to make them as attractive as can be, but also offer different options. I don't like the fact that if we were a super high school, that athletics would be impaired, because so I went to school in Derry and my dad lived in Derry, mom lived in Manchester, we split time. And I had the option to go to either Pinkerton or Memorial. And the main reason I chose Memorial was because at Pinkerton, I knew there was a slim chance to make a sports team. And that's one of the best things you can offer is a kid in middle school who's entering high school who plays sports is an opportunity to play on a school team. That's how I made friends, because I didn't know many people at Memorial. And so I was deterred from a big high school Pinkerton because I realized I couldn't make many teams, versus Memorial, where I was able to express my talents in multiple sports. And because I played tennis at Memorial, I was able to go on and play tennis in college. So if you think about it, if I chose to go to Pinkerton, which is a super high school, never got on the tennis team, I never would have been able to play tennis in college and learn all of the great things that tennis has taught me over the last 8 years. Rather, I chose Memorial, which was a good school and offered athletics. I was able to make the team. It then allowed me to play in college and give me more opportunity. So long answer, but also I think a super high school would be really expensive. And what would we do with Memorial? There's already too many empty storefronts. Shaw's on South Will has been closed for like 10 years and there's still nothing there.
Okay. Well, one thing to mention is one of the things that supporters of the super high school, quote unquote, proposal have talked about is the lack of participation currently in the athletic programs. Last month, they approved new cooperative teams. We'll put the link to that story up. But in the meantime,
I did see that article, Andy.
There you go.
It makes me sad. My favorite rivalry in all of sports was Memorial versus Central hockey. My best friends played hockey, and I was the #1 fan every year. And because my best friends, like to this day, played hockey for Central, and I wouldn't talk to them the whole week. I'm like, oh, big game. Talk to you next week. And then I would chirp them in the stands, and it was great because it just gives you an added experience, and it makes me sad, but I understand why. I mean, hockey's super expensive, so
yeah,
that's
what was mentioned. Yeah. So going in the meantime, going back to the business and infrastructure category, Laura Anthony from Ward 1 says, what municipal needs do you see being unmet in Manchester?
Yeah, so the municipal need that I see that is being unmet is the respect of the tax cap. I feel like every year you get a question on a ballot, or every year there's a proposal to override the tax cap. And here in Ward 9, we have an alderman currently who flip-flops decisions on that question. And it kind of adds a level of anxiety for people in Ward 9, especially the ones I've been talking to the last 3 months. They all say, I love Manchester. I've lived here for 50 years. I just got my property revaluation. I won't be able to afford this. And what can we do about it? So about a month ago, we had the option at City Hall for the Board of Aldermen with $10.8-ish million to either provide tax relief for taxpayers, about $1.18 per $1,000 of property value, or give it to the schools, which have a 53% already, 53% of the budget already allocated to them. And I think that was a municipal miss. 100% Alderman Sharonov said specifically, he goes, if you can provide a tax relief to people who are already stressing out about it, should be a home run. Why wouldn't everyone vote against it? Even if you're just being selfish and you want to lower your own tax bill, you should vote for it. But nope, they voted to give the money back to the schools. So if you want an alderman who's not going to flip-flop on decisions and uphold the tax cap at any given moment, I'm your guy. So the municipal need that is being missed is the stringent vote against overriding the tax cap.
Just put a link to the story about that one.
Andy, I swear, I get all of my knowledge from you. So,
well, thank you so much.
I have a few alderman's ears as well, but you usually break it before they tell me. So,
okay, I'm glad I'm your source. Heading to the miscellaneous category, Winter Trabex again from Ward 3 asks, would you support ranked choice voting and/or term limits?
Very for term limits. I think that one of the main reasons I'm running is the alderman we've currently had has been here for almost as long as I've been alive. No, I'm just kidding. She's been here for a while and she's won a lot of elections. And the reason I'm running is because I want to add a new perspective. And so what's discouraging someone from winning it when for example, if I were elected, I'd be 25. What would prevent me from running until I'm 80? Then Ward 9 would never have another idea. It would just be the same person representing. When you know and I know, neighbors change. People move into the city. People leave our ward. So I think there needs to be a constant revaluation. And I think term limits are a great idea. How many terms? No idea. Haven't thought that far through. But imposing restrictions on how long you can serve in a specific position is something I would encourage. And I think everyone who runs for alderman or public service is doing good. They want to better their community, and it takes a lot of courage to even put your name on a ballot. So I thank every single person who's ever run, every person who's ever gotten elected. You're trying to make Manchester a better place. So thank you for that. With ranked choice voting, I love it. I think it's a cool idea. It's a little twist, makes us a little different from the state. How it would be implemented, I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to the city clerk and the moderators at polling locations to see how they would prefer it. Because I know in Ward 9, Gloria, she runs a tight ship. once the election's over. She's already counting numbers. She has a system in place. And so whatever can make her life easier too is what I would encourage. She's a very nice lady.
Okay. All right. Heading to the housing and homelessness category. Bill from Ward 12 asks, do you support the no strings attached? Excuse me, do you support no strings attached housing for homeless or housing? Excuse me. Let me start over again. Do you support no string attached housing for the homeless, or should they be required to pay a certain amount of rent and or follow certain rules?
I believe they should follow certain rules for sure. That's one of the main reasons why people don't take shelter beds, because they don't want to follow the rules, whether that be drug use or like curfew or whatever, their personal decision. I do think that there needs to be an incentive for them. I say, like, for like a creative idea I'm coming up just right now would be, you get 72 hours or a week with no payment. But then like have a contingency, you're looking for work, or you're looking for a housing situation, because there's no incentive for us to provide free housing, because then that's just going to amplify everyone coming here. So if it could be temporarily free to just get people on their feet, and then after a certain time period has elapsed, then have either a financial commitment or maybe a volunteer commitment where they pick up trash around the city, or work to earn their place, or volunteer within the building itself. Something I would encourage, because Andy, you've mentioned it a couple times about last year when I was running for State House. I was doing all those community cleanups, and I know it's not just a Ward 9 problem. So how about people who are homeless who want a place to stay for a couple days just to get back on their feet, do some community service, give back, and then that can be their form of payment, because monetary needs obviously would be an issue for them.
Okay. Adding to the public safety category, Jay from Ward 3 asks, do you support the defund the police movement?
I do not. I believe the police are a great asset to Manchester. I think we need to recruit more police officers in Manchester. I know we're currently hiring more police officers, but right now we only have 3 traffic officers at any given time. So we need to increase their budget. We need to increase their ability to do their job. And as I've mentioned on like 10 other questions, the more you enforce laws, the more it deters. So I think the police are great. I back them 100%.
Okay. Heading to the education category, Jay from Ward 3 again. Will you agree to keep mask mandates for children while inside schools until COVID-19 numbers come down to the point where it's safe to remove the mandates?
No, I'm very anti. No, word this one, get clipped and then get thrown on Facebook for misquotes. I'm anti forcing kids to be masked in schools, because when looking at the CDC data, children are not, one, passing COVID like adults do, and 2, the mortality or even illness rate of young children with COVID is minuscule. So I don't believe, and there's even debates now about cloth masks actually working for young students, especially specifically little kids, because I know when I was a little kid, and all my friends who have kids, a kid does not just keep a mask on properly. When you go to med school, there's actually classes on how to wear PPE correctly. And so you think that if you wear a cloth mask, a kid's not going to be pulling it off or rubbing their eyes and then pulling the mask, or having the mask in their pocket when they eat and then bring it back. So I don't think the masks do much for them specifically, and it actually harms their development when they're not able to see the teacher's expressions or their classmates' expressions. So I think that kids are not a grave threat to dying from COVID, so I would not mask them.
Okay, thank you so much. Heading to the business and infrastructure category again. We have about 5 minutes left, so we might have time for 1 or 2 more questions here. This question comes from Romeo in Ward 4. Romeo asks, what is the top thing that can be done to help stimulate development in downtown and the Mill Yard?
Yeah, so right out of college, I graduated from Johnson & Wales University, and I went to go work at Southern New Hampshire University right in the Mill Yard. I thought that was a great use of property down there. They've done a fantastic job building it out. And so the one thing I would say to encourage more development is to make Manchester a desirable place to be. Ward 8 just got BAE built in, and BAE is bringing tons of employees to Manchester, and then they're going to stay, and that's high wages, and that's going to help boost Manchester. So once we fix the downtown problem with the homelessness, the raising crime, and just making Manchester's downtown as vibrant as possible, then more cities are going to follow because they're going to want to hop on that momentum. And so we have a great opportunity this election cycle to elect people that are going to do amazing things to ramp up the downtown and make it a desirable place, so that in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you see businesses popping up left, right, and center.
Okay. Depending on how quickly you answer this question, this might be your last question. We'll see here. Ken Stremski from Ward 1 asks, do you believe the visitor center at Veterans Park should have open bathrooms again?
Yes, I want to answer one more question. Yes, I believe that the bathrooms should be open.
Okay. Heading to the housing and homelessness category again. Kay from Ward 10 asks, what can Manchester do to entice nearby towns and the rest of the state to help address the shortage of affordable housing?
Yeah, so I don't know how surrounding towns could help us. I mean, if anything, they would probably want to lower their prices so that people from Manchester would leave to go there. What I would just solely recommend is take a look at all the properties in Manchester. Are there properties that are vacant? Are there properties that are abandoned? Are there properties that are run down and no longer useful? Is there opportunities for parcels of land to be built upon? Convert a single family home that's run down and completely abandoned and turn it into a 3-family home. All options. And the one thing I'd recommend is working directly with builders to encourage them to come want to build in Manchester rather than other towns. Show them that we're willing to work with them, show them that we're able to build, they're going to come. And so right now we're in a little bit of a real estate bubble. I think that property values are skyrocketing. So maybe it'll cool off when interest rates rise. But until then, I think we just have to wait it out and make smart financial decisions. Keep building.
Okay. In the public safety category, Thomas from Ward 2 says, is the opioid epidemic over? It feels like we don't hear about it that much anymore.
Yeah, no, it's not over. I mean, you don't really hear about the flu anymore, or any common colds. It's, if you have a sniffle, it's COVID. So I think right now we've just kind of come out of a 20-month cycle of COVID, that you're not really hearing everything else. What I'd recommend is take a walk downtown Elm Street and for about 10 minutes past any park, and you'll realize the opioid crisis is alive and well. Unfortunately, we will need to work to address it, but you're just not hearing much about it anymore, solely because of all the other stuff that's happening in the news.
Okay. In the education category, the Steve from Ward 6 says, why are the city's test scores so low? I've heard that many middle school and high school students are several grades behind where they should be in things like reading.
Yeah, Steve, great question. Steve, on November 2nd, vote for Sebastian Chernow for your alderman in Ward 6. He's definitely going to do a good job and help raise these test scores with me. The one thing I think it is it's a mixture of COVID and lack of student participation. I will give teachers immense credit for teaching through a global pandemic, learning how to teach remotely, how to keep attention from students remotely. And I think that is a major disruptor that's playing a major part in our schools. But the other thing is, I think that when students are in the classroom, they're not focused on learning. I think teachers are doing a great job trying to teach students. However, I think that it's just, for example, that article that just came out a couple days ago about a teacher, middle school teacher, who doesn't have any photocopiers in the whole school. Can't give handouts if there's no photocopiers. So the lack of operating materials for students. And as well as, I think parents need to be really involved in their students' education. My mom, every day when I got home, what was my homework? What tests were coming up, any projects? It was in constant communication with my teacher to make sure that I was on track in what I needed to do. And I think parents do a great job raising their kids, and I just encourage them to stay focused and make sure that you're an active participant in your student's education as well, or your child's education as well.
Okay, great. That looks like we have all the time for tonight. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Bobby.
Thank you. And so before we just end, on November
Sure.
2nd, Tuesday, it's like 4 days away from now. If you want change in Manchester, lower taxes, and a strong vote on the tax cap that won't flip and flop, vote for Bobby Kliskey on the ballot. I think it's the longest name on there. And then do your research on every single other candidate out there, because you may be shocked at what some people stand for and something you might actually learn. So I would say municipal races, you can't vote party line because there's no parties on the ballot. So do your research, don't randomly fill in bubbles, and then vote for Sebastian Sharonov in Ward 6, and then Joe Kelly Lavasser for Alderman at Large, and Will Infantine, School Board at Large.
Okay, thank you
And
so
Joseph
much.
Lachance, School Board at Large as well.
Okay. And one more reminder for folks out there, we have one more event. That's on Monday night at 7 p.m. with Aldermanic candidate Erin Kelly. She's running in Ward 12. And we've also had a whole bunch of other discussions like this. Check it out here on our Facebook page, and we'll have links to them later on tonight, as well as this video. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Bobby. My name is Andrew Sylvia. I'm the assistant editor of Manchester Inklink. No matter who you're voting for, please get out there and vote on Tuesday, folks of Manchester.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Andy.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye.